Hello everyone, welcome to another video of the Microsoft AZ-900 certification track. Today we are going to look into the Azure global infrastructure, which includes the Azure regions, the Azure availability zones, the data centers and Azure geographies. We would also be looking into the Azure subscriptions and different models within that subscription. Alright, so first of all, let's get started with the visualization procedure of what the Azure global infrastructure looks like. So starting with the most basic fundamental block, we have the Azure data centers. So these are the most basic fundamental blocks of the Azure global infrastructure. So for example, these data centers are powered by their own dedicated network, isolated power supply, and these are climate controlled with backup power generators. So this is like a solid model of a data center. And for example, when you deploy your application in these data centers, it is completely safe, right? And it is powered by all of these features that make it more resilient. But there are some factors when the data center completely goes down, right? So there are situations like that, maybe because of a natural calamity the data center goes down. So our main question would be, what happens when this data center goes down? Well, we can have another pair of data centers maybe a few hundred miles away, and we can also deploy our resources across these data centers, so that when this data center goes down, this one is up, this one is up, and we can work with this data center, right? So this is divided into this division of these multiple data centers is in a better way termed by Azure as uh, availability zones. So they have created different zones where they have placed multiple data centers within each zone. So these are the Azure AZs. So we can deploy our own infrastructure, our own application across multiple AZs. So for example, if one of the AZs goes down, we have another AZ up and running. Okay, so each of the AZs have uh, a constraint of that they should contain at least one data center. Like at least one data center should be in a zone to be considered as an Azure availability zone. Okay, so we saw that now that this if this AZ goes down, we have another AZ, right? And this contains multiple data centers, so we can go ahead and deploy our resources across multiple AZs, right? So now Azure has put all these AZs into one more chunk, which is known as a region, Azure regions. All right, so a further chunk of this would be Azure regions, where all the availability zones, including the data centers, are within these regions. Okay, so how is this useful? All right, so now for example, consider that these regions, they should have at least one or more data centers, right? At least one or more data centers should be present. And also there is another constraint that for a region to be an enabled region, it should have at least 3 AZs. So let us go ahead and put another AZ in here. So this is another AZ. So an enabled region should have at least 3 AZs in it. Okay, so now the question is that what happens when the entire region goes down? It can be possible, right? Because of a natural calamity, that the entire region goes down. So in that scenario, Azure has designed another possibility, which is known as a region pair. Okay, so what is a region pair? A region pair is we have one region up and running, and we have the availability zones inside that, and for example the entire region goes down. In that scenario, we have a region pair which will help us store our resources and safeguard our resources in the scenario that this region goes down. All right, and there is another constraint that uh, this region pairs should be at least 300 miles apart. All right, this is designed for the disaster recovery part of it, so that if one region goes down, another is up and running, and there is no loss of our application or data. Okay, so now interesting facts about the region pair is that it is also designed in a way that whenever Azure goes for any update in any of the regions, so if you have your infrastructure deployed across multiple region pairs or across one region pair, so Azure doesn't go ahead and update both of the regions in a region pair together. Azure will first update one of the region, then it will go update another region. So in this way, when the updates occur, if there is any malfunction, for example for your application, so it doesn't affect your application, right? For any upgrade or compatibility issues, it doesn't affect. So in that scenario, the region pair will also help us sustain our availability. Okay, so both of these region pairs, for example, let us look at a few of the region pairs. So one of the region pairs that exists is UK West and UK South. So these are one of the region pairs. There are multiple region pairs, but this region pairs are static, right? So you cannot go ahead and say to Azure that uh, I want this regions as region pairs. No, you cannot choose that because it is a static region pair. It is already predefined. All right. Now we talked about the enabled region, that it should have at least 3 AZs for it to be an enabled region. Okay. Now all of this are inside another block, which is known as Azure geographies. Right. So these are inside another block, which are termed as the geography. Okay, so this is the basic infrastructure layout of Azure, where we have a geography, which is like a geographical region. For example, you can say that a US geography or a UK geography, and within that we have regions and region pairs, and within those regions we have the AZs, and within those we have the data centers. Now the fun fact is that there are more than 50 plus regions in Azure, as we can see here, and there are more than 140 available in 140 countries. It covers across 140 countries. Okay, so another important fact that we need to know is that each AZ should have one or more data centers, and as we mentioned that each region, for it to be an enabled region, should have more than 3 AZs. All right, and a geography should also contain 2 or more regions. So US geography, UK geography, it will only be termed as geography only if it more than contains 2 or more than 2 regions. Okay, so with this knowledge, we can go ahead and take a look at the official documentation, where we have the terminologies. You can go ahead and look at the terminologies. Then we have the regions, the AZs, and all the things that we mentioned, the disaster recovery and everything. Then there are certain region types like the recommended region, alternate region, which means that recommended region are enabled regions and alternate regions are just for backup and to create more presence. Okay, and then we also have a few of the Azure service types which are foundational, available across all the recommended and alternate regions. A mainstream service which are available across the all the recommended regions, but it is demand driven on the alternate regions, and a specialized which is demand driven basically, and many are already deployed into a larger subset of recommended regions. Okay, so you can go ahead, go through this. There are other examples, and you can get to know more about the Azure global infrastructure. And there are also services by category, which service fall under which category. Okay, and yeah, once we know this, then there are certain features we could look into. As for example, we were talking about, for example, let us take the example of a virtual machine. And when we are creating a virtual machine, there is a part where we need to select the region. So these are the regions as we described here. So this region that is present here, this entire region that is present here, we get to choose it, that which region. Now there is one question that might come to your mind. For example, I choose Japan East, right? But my data is being provided from a location uh, which is maybe India, maybe US, maybe Australia. So how can I choose a region that will be suitable for me to deploy my VM, so for minimum latency? Or my clients are at a specific location. I need to see that. For example, my clients are in India. So for that, uh, I need to see that which location would be preferable for my clients in India or my clients in US, right? So that they face the minimum latency. So we have a Azure speed test platform for this, where we can see that based on my current location, it measures the latency from my web browser, that is from my current location, to the blob storage service, to each of the Microsoft Azure data centers. Okay, so with the help of this, we can see that if I deploy my resources across central India, I would face the minimum latency, right, which is 64 milliseconds, right? So this would help us to figure out that which region or which data center would help us to provide us the minimum latency. Now once we figure this out, that for example, this is central India, and I can go ahead and deploy my resources here. So for this, there is a platform by Azure which is products available by region. So I can go ahead and check the same. For example, let me check for India, and as central India provided me the least latency, let me go ahead for India and let us search for virtual machines. Alright, so yeah, so if I deploy the virtual machines of this series, these are available across central India. So for example, let us go for the app service. Alright, so you can see that the web apps and everything are present, the static web apps are not present. So by this you can figure out that the region with the least latency from your location or from your designated location, and it is basically denoting you that from the place where you are located, where you can get the minimum latency in which region. Then you can go ahead and figure out that which region have the services, or the region that is selected with the least latency, does it have the services that you're looking for from this platform, and then you can go ahead and deploy. Right, so then again we have the region selected here, and then we can go ahead and select the AZs. This, as we saw here, that within those region there are particular AZs, so we can go ahead and select the AZs. And within this also we have something which is virtual machine scale set, which means that distributing the VM across availability zones and fault domains. So this would only be available once we have the paid subscription or the enterprise subscription. I'm using currently a student subscription, So we'll look into the subscription today. So that is why it is not available, so we can go ahead for that as well. Right. So now there are one thing that we need to know, that across the AZs there is the service that are deployed across the AZs. There are two types of services in this category. One is zonal services and another is zone redundant services. Okay, so zonal services are the one, for example, the VM that we looked, that we can select the zone. Now what are the zone redundant services? For example, SQL service is an example of zone redundant service. uh, what it means is that we don't have to select the zone. When we create an SQL server, it is automatically replicated across multiple zones in the regions that we select. So this is an example of zone redundant service. All right. So now that we know about this, and we also know, so these are some of the regions that supports the availability zones. We can see Brazil in America, Brazil South, Canada Central US, East US, and all of this in Europe. These are the regions, and so on and so forth. And you can go ahead and also go through this zone resilience services, that will help you understand that which are the services you can use across, uh, like it will be resilient for zone wide outage. So for example, if my AZs goes down, these services would be functional. So these are the example of that. Okay, so now we have, once we have a basic understanding of the global infrastructure, I would ask you to go through this documentation more, so that you get more out of it. And now let us move to the next part of our discussion for today. That would be the Azure subscriptions. So the subscription are the most basic or the highest level of Azure resource, and each subscription has a unique subscription ID, and we can go ahead and create multiple subscription for one single account. So these are the subscriptions that are provided. As I have a student subscription, which is Azure for students, I don't have a free trial, so this is one of the subscription. Then there is pay as you go, which is the enterprise level subscription. We have other subscription as well, like Visual Studio Enterprise subscription, Azure Pass, and developer support. So this subscription help us based on the use case. So according to the use case and our needs, we can go ahead and select this subscription. So how to create a subscription? Just we need to go to add, and once we go to the add subscription, based on our use case, we need to select our subscription. We'll first check the offer eligibility, that which subscription are available for this account. Then we can go ahead, select that offer, provide our credentials and our payment details, and we can set up our subscription. All right, so this is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. This is about the Azure global infrastructure and the Azure subscriptions. So if you have any query, you can leave down in the comments. If you have any feedback, you can leave down in the comments, and please like, share and subscribe this channel, and we will see you in another video. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Cheers.